In this time, how we take that opportunities and take forward the embrace the change, so how we do that. And I really agree with your fact that the human touch, wherever you need that human touch, will become the more paying jobs, because you have a AI piece which is taking over the boring piece of and automations, whichever in whatever the way it is possible. And then you have another side where people are really eagerly waiting for the human touch. So that's where the human will move from. And I thought somebody, having a conversations in some the customer friend facing role become more important than ever. And because they will otherwise it will destroy the fabric of the society, or that social.
And technologies, if we go back to, I love first principles, and first principle is that technology is meant to make life easier for humans. Correct. I want to just keep reminding everyone of that, technology is here to make our life easier. So please just tune out all those people that keep talking about how we're not going to be needed. Then what's the point if we're not, honestly,
But at the same
it's
time,
so ridiculous. If we say we're not needed, then
correct.
no.
At the same time, it's important, like exactly you said, where our fitment going to be in the next 3 to 5 years. So if the people doesn't watch that and look how this, if then definitely they will be up to us to. So like
to shape the
exactly,
future.
you said, it's very important to be on the top of the transformations, innovations, and updations of the skills. Otherwise, then I think that whole the nutshell of all the conversations in a bigger picture is that whoever embrace it will win. Whoever ignore it will have those impact. So that's something which we may have to spread ahead as well.
And my mantra has been for many, many years, this is not new. People think I'm just woke up yesterday. No, none of this is new. Hello guys, it's just, as we've said, the scope the speed is much faster.
Yes,
the scale
that's
of
the
it and the
challenge,
scope of it is far greater than has ever been, but it's nothing new. Let's be clear. It's just the acceleration of it is faster, the scope and the scale. So many years ago already was talking about, as we digitize, we need to humanize. And the fact is, wherever a dollar we invest and even speak about AI, we should invest and speak about HI, human intelligence. Because, I really think is, how do we balance the two? And how do we make sure it's not a war, but it can be a dance between the two? But it really should be, as the point you've just made, which is the kind of human intelligence that optimizes AI. Because it's like anything else, whether you create the atom bomb or whether you create, I can use this pencil to stab you, I can use a pencil to draw. So it's an age-old question, which is, how are we going to use AI in service of humans and in service of the human race? So I think that's a really important point, that balancing AI and HI. And for as I say, if every conversation we have about AI, we should be bringing in, therefore, what is the implications for humans, and how do we optimize human intelligence that can leverage the AI in service of humans and of each other as a human race?
100%. Adding to that, on the top of that, how we can solve this. It's about that creating that ecosystem of putting that all pieces together, and with the help of data, with the help of tech AI, how we integrate the system together in a best informative manner, so that every system parallelly support each other for this change and the pace and accelerations and the transformations that's happening now. So what we are doing is we're developing an ecosystem that is on the top layer, like I think we discussed this before. On the top layer, this is pulled the data of the market demands, how the market, if you look at the job trends now, it's really changing. Now before it was UI UX designer, now it is AI UX UI designer. You see how the job categorizations and descriptions is changing and evolving. And now, so we have a system we should develop, and we are developing this system where we have that market intel of what is the demand, what exactly is the demand. So sensing this demand in a well accurate, with good informations, and accumulating those data in a well-tailored manner, and passing this data to the government level and to the higher education, so that the better tailor the program, better tailor the curriculum based on the market demand and supply, and to the government pastor to look, this are the ABCD program which the industries are interested, and now we will, from at a government level, there should be a push to frame this, change into the higher educations or the education system. So the higher educations is forced to take at one side from a governmental push at a policy level, and then the higher education itself, based on the market demands, take this up. So from that higher education, so then the challenge is now the more challenge is how we cope up with the transformation is a change. And then, like, exactly, okay, you need XYZ jobs, that's going to be a hit in the next 2 years. Now, do you have a delivery system that can be better taught? Not at the moment, correct? So now, how we integrate that into the system? I think my opinion, and I'm doing an applied research on the industry to education, and what exactly we need is a knowledge co-creation, which is a powerful word. Industry-based knowledge co-creation. I think that's a powerful word. So in it, like just to put a framework and a simple example, let's say you have a 100% delivery system, at least 40% you have to be industry co-created delivery in that 40%, and the rest 20 to 30% is more focused on the interpersonal skills, the critical thinking, system thinking, and attitude, staying loyal, how to behave, how to be, show your openness. So those kind of very well needed skills that employers are really looking forward to, and those mind of how you study about supercomputer. You talk about AI, and we miss the supercomputer that has the power of anything else in the human supercomputer. So sometimes in our education system we miss the power of a conscious subconscious mind, how our subconscious mind control the worlds around us. So those thinking and those of managing ourselves is really missing in this. So it's about that 20 to 30% being embedded to teach themselves the best values and best skills that the industry is looking towards, so that it helps in both ways. One is, as a person, it helps you a lot to develop yourself as a human, and empathy, those element of it, and then the other side, it helps you to better perform in the coming world. And in the third system, we cannot say that the current education system is completely wrong, but there is every education system, your delivery system is structured around to teach problem solving skills, to teach teamwork. So there are good elements to it. So taking that 30 to 40% of the good elements all together and combining this together will be a good ideal delivery system. So in that process, when we integrate all together this ecosystem in a nutshell, and then we have a framed like a method of delivery system based on this information, and then we are at least in a positions to make the students' talent or future ready. And what's your thought?
So if you summarize, I'm going to use that word transversal skills because that seems to be the popular word, but like you mentioned, that is number two. Number one is the industry-led, sector-specific, or let's call it not technology, but technical skills, which might include technology. And then the third would be the current academic, what's being taught in the, let's call it in the mainstream. So really combining all three. I agree with you, and I think in terms of if we think about that as the go-to-market, or what we focus on in terms of the profile of the student, so you're building all three aspects within the student, then as you and I have discussed a few times, and within our ecosystem of associates that we're collaborating with, is also then the methodology of getting there. So I'm with you. I think it's about building, and even many years ago in South Africa, we created a broad-based education, and it did exactly that. We target, because sadly our education system was very broken, in not that within the disadvantaged communities, because of, sadly, our situation in my country. But we did exactly that. It was the life skills or the transversal skills, the employability, and a world of work exposure and experience. And then we had, as you said, we had the math, science, and some of the traditional formal education components. So that it was like a pizza, and these were the different components. So it's a pizza with multiple slices. And it was interesting because Then the mode of delivery was also, I'm also going to use three buckets. So in terms of methodology, we looked at how do we get these across in terms of formal education, but by that we just meant new knowledge and new skills and information and knowledge transference. And that could be in the form of lectures or videos or whatever it was, but that was giving the learners new information, new knowledge. Then it was 70% was through experience and exposure. So, sorry, experience. So the first one's education, which is more formal education, but meaning as a methodology, not as a space or as a subject. The second one would be experience, which would be world of work experience, community experience. So we even had the youth give back out of their chose to take projects where they gave back and innovated to their own community. But they also got exposure. We had a very strong collaboration with the employers within each area. So we would look at a geographic area, and in those days was much more literal and physical. But it also meant that the employers were investing in the future talent pipeline. So it was a win-win. We used to call it enlightened self-interest, where the employees would make the time because this was the talent pool they'd be drawing from. And that was experience. And then exposure was role models. So we made sure that there may be overseas role models, but more importantly, role models from their own community. So in terms of delivery methods, that's what we did. And I think the fourth E is also create a safe space or safe environment. So that's the fourth E, where the students did feel safe. I think I would add to that nowadays, we definitely had technology enablers, but as you said, I think the AR, VR, AI powered, I would put that as a wraparound layer, is how do we then leverage technology within these different things, because you can even have simulated AI, VR kind of experiences, where I've just been looking at different platforms now that actually will, based on, let's say it's problem solving, it will have a body of knowledge on problem solving, but it will not only tailor it to your organization or your context, but it will also personalize it to you. So it will be very, very personalized. That's the power of AI, but it's taking the old role play simulations we used to do in the classroom, but contextualized into a simulated technology-enabled environment, plus the power of AI, so that you would, whatever was, and the interface is pretty much like ChatGPT, where it's very dynamic and it will respond to you, and it's a conversation with your AI tutor, but it's drawing from a body of knowledge that's coming at the back end. So it's a consistent body of knowledge, but tailored for your organization, tailored for you personally. So I really feel, again, it's exciting times where we could build on the natural way we learn, which is the 3 E's, but it also can be accelerated by the use of the many, many different ways of leveraging technology. It's not just AI, it's not just e-learning. It frustrates me when people want to find one pipe. It's like saying there's only classroom. No, there are millions of variations of delivery methods, as long as we make it highly interactive and we look at how we learn naturally, and we use these different, combine these different methods of learning. As you're doing in your organization, you're combining different ways. You might have lectures, you might have role models coming in, you might have work experience, apprenticeship schemes. So it's really combining all of these together in terms of creating a very holistic learning experience for the students.
The beauty of adding to that, the beauty of you talk about a system to wrap around the education system delivery method, and now where this is evolving is the use of extended reality. We talk about metaverse, the Web 3.0. So in that, the transformations, how the education system can be integrated, there's XR. So in this extended reality, we can learn things very fast, understand the concept very fast. So now in the future learning for, let's say, a university or every organizations at higher educations and K-12, they will have a XR element to their education. I see big group investing on XR a lot in educations now, but the real applied solution is going to come in the next many years. But where it's going is the old application software as a service problem, solving the assignment, solving work assignment, those things going to change. Rather, you will every like organizations will have their own personalized, like a professor AI, maybe you call it that way. So which is like an a subsystem to support the education through virtual reality and augmented reality, so that they understand the concept quickly, and also more of in a format of video conceptions as shorts. So think about an Instagram, think about a social media where for any university, XYZ university, and then they have that ecosystem where you combine those shorts in various ways, and the students can learn quickly from that. So it's become a lot of conceptions of the knowledge within a short time, and they have let's say like a 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 shots to just learn, and then they just students. So this is about that matching of the new generational alternate reality to the education system which is already in place. So the method of learning and the method of conceptions also going to change. So it's about finding that fine line of the fine line of the both generations and the method of systems. And I also, if you use social media for a better purpose, and I use it most of the time, that's the best tools to learn, isn't it? So if you follow the right group, if you follow the right channels, then how much in a 30 minutes of scrolling, how much information you're grasping in your mind. The same systems can be applied, and with the use of XR and VR, we'll have a more better, more deeper knowledge and more concept-based, core fundamental understanding, skill-based learning in those, as an applied versions of what we were discussing, and that's going to come. So that's something which is all are developing. I think few of the organizations already started changing and evolving to that piece of creating that alternate reality educational support system for their own institutions in a personalized manner, so that and then can. So let's say they will tell example just they will tell like a chat GPT, or show me this video of this particular topic and take me to the AR side of it. Then it will pop up, and then they will have tailored content of those as a shorts coming. Then they will have some assessment methods from it. And I think that's where it is taking us. And what's your thought on that?
As I said, I think I've already started seeing that I've already seen organizations or solutions that are coming in from EdTech, LearnTech that are
correct
doing that. So as you say, it's not even coming in the future, it's already here, and of course they're going to keep improving.
Correct.
But I just want to lean into the point that you made, that instead of us shying away and running away from sometimes the negative impact of social media, but learn something from it. So I think we often make a mistake of blindsiding something, instead of saying, well, listen, that's working, where Snapchat or Insta or whatever, and even Insta is getting shorter and shorter. So, and I think, so on the one hand, I challenge, the more mainstream people or the adults or whatever, to say, lean into what's working, because there must be something in it. On the other hand, I'm also challenging, all of us to say, actually, micro-learning has been around, and people make it as if it's a new thing. It's not. It's like micro-learning is exactly that, is how do you break a big body of knowledge, and we've done that with the whole private banking curriculum for the Singapore government, and I won't go into details, but looking at private banking as a huge body of knowledge, but we broke it down into chunks, and then we sub-broke that down into tiny, tiny little micro-learning, even for adults. And even to the point that working in digital learning, we found that we would go from 3-4 hours of learning many years ago to 45 minutes of learning to 15 minutes of learning to 3 minutes of learning. And now I would even say down to 1.5 minutes of learning. So again, there's two sides. One is we cut out anything new and say, oh, social media is bad. No, let's turn it into an asset. But also we forget that micro-learning isn't new. It's just how we deploy it now in this new space, and leveraging the latest technology. So I see there are platforms that are evolving now, and that's why you have to, even us as professionals and the leaders, and I keep coming back to the leadership stakeholders in this higher order community. If we're not personally learning, how can we challenge the youth?
The concepts,
because if we're not future ready, how
the others? How can you think that
And that's an age-old
perspective.
thing. I mean, I'll never forget this challenge.
And I'm sure that people will evolve. I think when you hit the people with survival, including us, find a way to, penetrate through that and challenge ourselves and get on the top, collaborate together. And also, I was thinking how we put that point of like in our mind when we talk about knowledge as a co-creation of with the industry, knowledge as a co-creations of the industry. So, and how we develop that a curriculum that is more industry ready. So coming to that, how the tech can be a bigger piece playing. So when you say industry education will co-create the knowledge, so then there's a lot of areas, a lot of gray areas into that. The gray areas are, okay, let's say we are putting X amount of students to an industry to learn something. The industry have their own world and of the systems to interact, and they will not entertain much students to come and learn, isn't it? So this is the one gray area. So then how we put the assessment method and how we put the methodologies, how we have the framework to set around, and what is the validations and assessment method to deploy those kind of models. So understanding these problems and then the solutions, what we are working on is, so it's a tech-based platform where the industry, we are tied up, let's say 500 organizations. So in that 500 organizations, every organization has a unique AI portal to submit their challenges, that's the right word to use, challenges that they're facing at various levels and various departments. They put those challenges in that particular platform, whether it's the ABCD, writing, recording, or you putting a video notes that anybody can access. So this problem came to the capture in a system in a good format and in a good method, so that then it automatically generates the problem statement, and a professional man pass it to the academics. So academics then evaluate these challenges and give the opinions on these challenges. And based on the departments, based on the area of work, based on the study aspirations of the students, it gets assigned to the students to solve this particular problem. So when they solve this particular problem, it as a group, as an individual, and they work together to solve this problem. So when this problem is solved, it then get exchanged in both parts, let's say industry and academia. There is exchange which is already happening in terms of the knowledge transfer or in terms of any other methods. So when you have that kind of problem and challenges solved, the students get to understand what exactly organizations are looking for. And on the other side, organizations or industries look to their students in academia, and then there are some talents who really know what exactly a problem, and they're really capable to bring some different perspective and solve that problem at a different level or in a different view. So that this is, as an exchange of this kind of things happens, so then it starts to develop and solve the problem of the pace and the transformations. And then the next challenge is, once we have this problem, so let's say 500 companies creating a 2,000 problems, and the students of like 7,000 students in the smaller groups in different universities solving those particular problems. So what's the power of the knowledge transfer that comes out of this is huge, isn't it? So once you have that kind of ecosystem, now how we make the validations and framework, and then how we assess those problem and solving, and how we can integrate those assessments to their scoring or the metrics which they are for the students, for the learners. So from that learner's perspective, then how we better integrate that system together, and the academics can work on it, and how we evaluate and how we score. And based on that, once we have that framework, there are 3 advantages to it. One, it solves the problem of the pace. Second, it makes students ready with the most updated problems, and academia exactly know what exactly is happening between them. So it's like a knowledge co-creations, literally the knowledge co-creation that being developed here. So that's one of the aspirational project we are working on, and we want to really make that impact, so that I think we sometimes feel that's majorly the problem to sort, isn't it? And then make the future ready talents. And your thought on this, Laurie?
Well, I know we've started speaking about this, so if I may, but I've literally, so building on what you've just said, I'm not doing that. So just to be clear, however, what I've done is, because you've got the tech piece of engaging all the different stakeholders and facilitating this journey. Sorry?
Like Uber and the drive.
Exactly. So you're bringing all the people and connecting them using your platform. I've created a platform for the students to guide them to be agile and to design solutions that are impactful on humans. So the technology is, so whatever solution, it may not have technology, but most likely it would. And we've been running it with various universities here and then with youth programs in South Africa. So it just so happens, I think we have an intersection point, which is a lot of what you've been speaking about, is how do we find those intersection points where you providing this entire ecosystem engagement and supporting it through technology and being the facilitator of it. We're providing a simple technology for the students, which the employers and the educators can join if they wanted to. But it really is for each team to be guided through these 9 activities to imagine their solution and the impact of the solution, and then to create their solution and track their progress and the impact. And then finally, at the end, stage 3 is to celebrate success by creating a video, but all on the app. So as you see, it's like a T, you guiding this journey and we providing a very simple technology. So I think these kind of, which is, why we're speaking, is I think bringing people like ourselves and our different resources, but always there's a common shared purpose of how do we bring this ecosystem together and leverage technology, leverage your space where you're coming as an educator, and we bringing Learn Tech. This is a very small Learn Technology tool which sort of supports what you're doing. So it just so happens the tool is called Team Co-Creation Tool. I know we've worked with some organizations and they don't quite get the concept. However, I really believe, like you, in co-creation and in co-creating solutions together. But I think, and in addition, as you said, let's call this action learning, problem-based learning, whatever you choose to call it. It's sort of like work-based learning. You could call it whatever you want, and it's like an innovation hub. But the point is that there is also the learning aspect. So while the teams are solving real life problems, that's what action learning means, is they're solving real life problems, but they're learning. And I love what you're saying, which is not only are the students learning through this experience, but the academics, the educators, and the employers around the students are also learning. So this whole three-way kind of tripartite kind of learning, I think that's, they happen, I'm sorry, they're from Singapore. So they use that idea. Normally the tripartite is the students in the middle, the government, the educators, and employers. But in this case, it's, the three are equally important. And I see a lot of the employers are actually reaching out to the youth. So just reinforce your point, whether it's NVIDIA, some of the big Silicon Valley guys are literally reaching out. And I was at an event the other day and they were sharing how in their company, I won't mention names, but in their company, they could not solve a very simple problem, but very complex, but yet simple solution was needed. And they could not, as a highly qualified team, internally solve it. So they threw it out there. And a young kid, a teenager in Indonesia solved the problem. Within 24 hours, this kid came back and they had outsourced the solution. And it was a bit, not embarrassing, it was fascinating how out in the Bundu somewhere in Indonesia, and this was an American company in Silicon Valley, all the top engineers, and they brought the best minds together to solve it. And yet a young, fresh mind in Indonesia was able to, and this is a true story.
And also, adding to the top of that, and sometimes that's a beauty of collaborations, and you can never know where the ideas come from, and it's very important for now the companies or organizations to have that center of excellence. Sometimes Toyota have center of excellence in Stanford or Silicon Valley, and then different companies there. But when you look at that middle scale and small scale, they don't have that capacity to sponsor that sandbox, like experimentations with a big university. I think that's where the organizations also have to look, and the future is any organizations, irrespective of the small scale or the medium scale, they should have a capacity to afford or put a center of excellence with any of the educations of their scale, maybe to put in a commercial, more sensible way. So when you have the center of excellence associated with like any of the education institutions, and the innovations become the centerpiece and the forwarding piece of that organizations. And in some ways it is very important that organizations look in this perspective, because it is we reached in a point where their customers are them, most of them now. So if you don't understand what exactly the customer needs, the evolving generations needs, how can you evolve and survive in the business? It's a big questions to ask. So the future, when we look at that tripartite in your language, it's about in the top layer is putting that understanding what the demands look like, and that is coming down to the tripartite, and the tripartite is student, academia, and the employers coming together. You can call it as another side and version of the center of excellence. Then that tripartite come down to exactly the piece you are talking about, where how students in these challenges, given that the 30-40% of the framework which is happening, how we make sure that 30-40% of the total assessments or validation method in the curriculum delivery, how the students get the best out of it as a different value proportions, whether it's a teamwork, whether it's an attitudinal behavior, bringing those interpersonal skills which is well needed for the organization to proceed, or loyalty, or in whichever the areas or aspects you can take, plus the real problem on the challenges of the organization faced. And then how, like exactly the thing you are developing and you're working on is team co-creations. Apart from how another 10 or 20 can come in that assessment or in the bottom line of this piece, and then how we solve and develop that's different skills that is definitely needed for the human to evolve, and the industry to get the good talents, and for them to have a better life and the prosperity next. I think that's we as an educators, we got this responsibility to talk about this. We got the responsibility to continuously talk and evolve. Sometimes it is little thoughts and conversations which changes and make the bigger picture, bigger things, isn't it?
No, and that's why I think back to our whole topic, or where we started was, future readiness is a huge, complex challenge with multiple stakeholders. However, at the end of the day, I really believe in first principles, and one of them is, in a very complex world, there's always simple rules. And if you can begin with simple rules. So in a complex world, it's actually, there's even a book called Simplexity. So Simplexity is, in a very complex world, there's simple rules. So as you said, sometimes we can solve very big problems by finding this kind of point of intersection and really taking some bigger ideas, but then translating it into a very tactical, simple, executable. And in fact, one of the universities we've just finished a week ago, it was 25% of their final year mark, and the kids were ecstatic because they really did a phenomenal job, and credit to the kids. And I can take a little bit of credit because the technology and the tool was just a very simple guided process, but it just helped them to feed into their own tacit knowledge and really gave them a safe space and to collaborate, because there's worksheets in the tool itself. So it's purely a structured, agile process with the mindfulness of what is your impact on humans. And really they did a great job. So every one of those students in the teams, in the 3 or 4 teams, they all got 20 full marks for this project. So they were ecstatic, if nothing else. But exactly what you said, I think we just experimenting I think both researching, we're experimenting. But it would be interesting to look at how we can join these dots, because I know a lot of the universities are looking for this type of thing. A lot of the employers are looking for some concrete, sometimes micro challenges or solutions like this.
Very simple.
Yeah, very down to earth, without changing our whole big policies and practices, but just simple solutions. Yeah,
Very concrete.
yes, but it starts a lot of all these small little let's call them experiments, can then be scaled and contribute to the, feed upwards to the bigger strategy or solution that's needed.
Because to be in UAE, that's what a lot of our thoughts being triggered by the government itself, and the opportunity they are giving through E33, AI 33, and the whole UAE is Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and the world ecosystem innovation hub is pushing this forward. There was just an open source summit of TI, Technology Innovation Institute, the research-based institute, which pushed the overall research center of the UAE's agenda of AI 33 and the rest, and 71 as well. So and the MBZ UAI, and there are huge changes that's happening, and they're having this ecosystem for us to learn, and they embrace the changes. It's about getting that the right product. Like exactly you said, in a complex world there is always a smaller, simpler rules, and how we structure and how we make that very concrete, simple methods to solve the problem, where our students are not left behind, where the industries are not left behind, and they are not forced to look for alternatives, maybe human 2.0, to solve their problem, where they have a more dependability and trust towards the HI, which you were talking about. And that's a confidence we as an educator, academics will have to have the responsibility to make that happen in some way. And it's a lot of responsibility on us, and I think we're working on it. And then what else? I don't know what to talk.
To stay positive and
to be role models, and as we are co-creating and collaborating, and we each go off and do our own learning, and then we come back and check in and see how we might collaborate with other associates that we're talking to concurrently. So I think it is about what I saw work in Singapore was a movement. Future Skills was a movement, and I hear that in Dubai and UAE. Well, the Future Skills was actually a national campaign, and they engaged everybody. So the corporates, the government, and they set and they created all kind of enablers to support this, the Future Skills. So it was transformation. Yeah, and I think the idea of a movement is that it's an ongoing thing. It's not just a 6-month campaign. I mean, I use the word campaign as well, but it is a movement which ultimately then becomes embedded as the culture. So that's something I did learn, and I practice now, is that you really want to shift daily habits, and if you embed certain habits amongst all the different key stakeholders, as I say, I'm really going to come back to including the parents and the community, because they do have an influence, and then the peers and the youth influence each other, then the employers, of course, and the educators, and then the government's role, which is very active, as we know, here in the UAE. So how do we keep joining the dots and shift it as a movement, rather than it's just, okay, it's the next cool thing, as we've had, and I'm sure they'll come back, but NFTs were a cool thing, and everyone was, the metaverse was really promoted here, and it hasn't died. It will be back, but I think right now the whole wave of AI and quantum computing and the future technology is the driver, but it all should be in service of, this is the well-being of humans, and therefore this is where the economy is going, the employers are going, the educators are going, and therefore the youth and the talent needs to go. Because for me, the 3 things in my mind is the future economy, the future technology, and the future ways of working. And that should be what we really are helping ourselves and the whole community that we're working with to be future ready for this ever changing. It's not even for the next.
No, it's ever changing, and it'll never stop. Always a history. The acceleration is huge. And I've just adding to that. It's been like I don't know where exactly I heard this. It's one person putting a step at one step at a time, and 1,000 people making that one step at a time have a huge difference compared to universe versus Earth. So that's the analogy you're talking about. So I think we're working towards it. I think